And once again, he started off small and he said, hey, look, I'm going to be weak. And he didn't follow directions. And he said that he forgot again, which wasn't true. He ended up telling me to shut up once again at the end. And he basically said, here's another quote from him. He said, "This argument is, caps, fucking pointless, uncaps. I'm going to roleplay my character how I want, and none of you can tell me otherwise." And I get in a sense why he says that, because people, you're on Asylum. You can roleplay your character how you want to an extent. You can't say I'm the fucking king of this shit. Here's another thing that kind of pissed us off. He wanted to fight William one-on-one. And he basically said, you know what, teleport to this area. Me and William are going to have a battle. And he basically wanted to try and kill me. But I said, look, dude, we're RPing. We're outside of Jadenar, which is his base. And I said, I have my team together. And, you know, we are going to basically have like an assault on your base. He got super pissed off, and he basically created this bullshit way to get out of the battle, which was basically once we entered the throne room, he just blew up the entire place with explosives that a Moarg created. By the way, I didn't tell a lot of people, but I was the Moarg. I didn't tell any of like a lot of the role players in his guild. I was role playing the Moarg, and I didn't want people to know. And literally one day before we basically had the assault on his base, he left the Moarg alone in the base while all of you went off to Shadow Moon Valley and started fighting a fucking demon hunter, and one of you guys got wounded in his guild. But you know, he left the Moarg alone in the base. I had William, a demon hunter with me, a Silas demon hunter. There was Fala stationed outside, Leoric, who had Quel'Danar, Hawk, who has the Ashbringer, Caliver, who was my informant, part of the guild, but he was actually working for me. Basically, I was going to give him the tome that Varsithimus had after we killed him. But we had all those people stationed outside. I came in with William and killed the fuck out of my Moarg, which is why I had the crazy armor when I assaulted his base, because I drained the Moarg's power. So the Moarg technically wasn't alive to place these said explosives in the base. And a lot of people say, hey, Morph, what about the demons at the front? We killed everything. We went all the way into the back of the base, and I myself RP'd going throughout the entire base for like an hour while Varth and his guild was in Shadow Moon Valley. And I even told him, Sealy, I kept whispering him. I was like, look, I'm in your base right now. I'm in your base. And he was just like, well, there's demons there. So, you know, whatever. And basically, I slowly roleplayed, working my way through the base for like an hour. I killed everything. He didn't even check when he got back. He mainly stays in his throne room in the back. So he didn't even know that all of the demons were already dead. So the next day, when we ran an assault on his cave, there were literally only like 4 demons walking around, like 2 succubuses, a fucking fell guard, and 1 fell hunter, and that was it. So I basically roleplayed just running through the base, and I don't know, Varth basically just blew up his entire base and said, yeah, my base is destroyed. Oh, I just killed like all of my guild members besides me and Gorkai. Like, we're leaving. Like, that's it. And then basically Gorkai got angry at him because he was basically saying that Varth was being a pussy. He's a super powerful demon, and ran away like a little bitch. He started fighting him, and that's when me and Nathan and everybody got into an argument, and then Hawk banned the shit out of him. A lot of things that people don't know is, yes, he was nice to members, but he cursed out GMs and admins. Like, he told me to shut my fucking mouth. Like, he really didn't care when it came to admins, because he knew as long as he had the people on his side, he could convince you of anything. And that's a very powerful notion. That's very manipulative. I know how that works. Sometimes I do it. You know, a lot of people sometimes do it. It's a defense mechanism. When you're, you know, when you're being grabbed by the fucking balls, you squeal. So, you know, he basically tried to use that tactic. And then he posted on the forums. I deleted his post. I'm sorry for the people who still wanted to talk to him. But, you know, I deleted his post from the forums because it basically was saying, you know what, I'm not going to argue, guys. I'm not going to be angry about this. And basically, he was infuriated that we kicked him. We could tell because of the way that he was infuriated the first time that we argued. But he basically knew what he was doing this time, because it was basically the third time that this was happening. And he basically, you know, he was like, I'm not going to argue, guys. Like, I am a nice guy. And he was basically trying to make the admins look like douchebags. And he was basically saying, this server isn't worth it. You guys should come with me, and we're going to go roleplay on Warcraft 3. And he basically gave out his email, his Warcraft 3 ID, stuff like that. And he basically said, let's leave. And let's, like, fuck Asylum almost. In a very nice way. So I'm sorry to the people who wanted to talk to him, but I had to delete his post. It would be ridiculous to keep it up. And, you know, I'm sorry to the people who did want to talk to him, but this is the way that it has to be. And, you know, Nathan made a lot of mistakes throughout the time being here. He created a lot of characters that he wanted to apply for. Like, he used to say, I'm not power hungry. I'm not power hungry when I play a good guy, and I play a good guy. Thing was is that he never played a good guy. His only good guy, technically, was Bertimus. And Bertimus, he even roleplayed as a... He tried to roleplay him as a good guy, but whenever he got pushed around, he just became a bad guy. He was like, you know what, fuck this. Like, I don't want to be pushed around by other RPers. And he was like, fuck you guys. And when he created the character Bertimus, he was like, oh, I'm just a normal human. I'm a human, and I used to execute people for a living. Basically, take an axe and just chop people's heads off. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's what you do then. He got pushed around by a bunch of people over at Bayne's base, the Blood Maw Pact. And he got really frustrated and really angry, so he basically added a bunch of stuff to his lore story, like, oh, Bertimus was also a covert ops for the SI-7, and he was covert ops for like many years. He's highly trained in a lot of weapons. He's completely versatile. He's really fit. He's a marshal for, you know, like humans and human territory and stuff like that. He added a bunch of shit to his story that was just ridiculous. He basically turned his regular human into a highly trained human warrior who made his own weapons, who was in covert ops, who was a spy, who was just completely highly trained. And then he basically said, oh, he has weaknesses. And I was like, what is it? He was like, he's girl shy. And that was his only weakness. And the reason why he did that as well is because he likes to say, oh, my characters are super attractive, but they're girl shy, so that way female RPers think that he's cute. He liked to ERP with like a lot of people who he even thought were female, but they were male in real life as well. You know, and then he RP'd with a few other female role players and stuff like that. But, you know, basically, in all, he was a douche. I don't know how to further explain it than that. He had other characters, like I said, like an imp that didn't have any master, so he could just teleport in between the Nether and Azeroth whenever he wanted, just flips of his fucking fingers. So yeah, he might be a weak demon, but he can get away whenever he wanted. He's just like, I'm a weak demon, but I can't die. What the fuck? Bertimus, crazy fucking highly trained human that he changed his story because people pushed him around. Varsithimus, who was a dreadlord, who he later said, "Oh, since I'm gaining power," which he did on the wrong day, that was stated. He basically said, "I'm a necromancer now," but he was already a shadow lord. He had highly trained shadow powers, and then he just decided to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm a necromancer now too, and I'm a demon lord. I'm a demon commander." You have to be one of the fucking three. You can't be all three, and he was basically saying that he was a grandmaster in all three of them. Musta'Krakish, he had him as a mind controller, which is basically, let me go over the classes that Musta'Krakish was. He was a mind bender. He was also a shadow lord. He was also a demon commander. He was a strategist. He wanted him to be a forger as well, so he could make like mystical armor and shit. He was an archaeologist, which is basically a magical collector of like magical goods, so that way he could gain even more power. And he said that he wanted to be a necromancer, but I denied that because demons, literally the Scourge is a failed experiment compared to the Burning Legion, or at least they thought, you know. And necromancy is literally like petty ass bullshit that people in like shadow labs would fucking do, like little fucking orcs. Like, look, I summoned a skeleton. He's an Eridar, okay? He can smash a skeleton with his fucking foot. So it was retarded. So, I mean, what other characters? He had a Grandmaster Hydromancer, who basically wasn't a Hydromancer. It was basically a fucking Aqua Lord. Like, I command the powers of the sea. It might as well be Neptulon. He wanted a Necromancer. That was one of the first things that he was talking about at first. And then he also wanted to be a Graven one. But then he asked about it, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, how many skeletons can they summon?" And if you've ever read it, it's one. And then he was like, "Oh, yeah, fuck that. I want a giant army." So he didn't. He wanted to request playing a green dragon, a keeper of the grove, and an ancient, and an arch druid. So basically, he chose every single powerful class he could ever be, and he says that he's not a power-hungry individual. I call bullshit on that. The thing about him as well is we gave him chances. We gave him a lot of powerful fucking classes. He was even a Pirate of the South Wind as well, which was one of the rewards from the server event. And, you know, we gave him a bunch of powerful classes, a bunch of chances, and he ruined every single one because he just wanted more and more and more and more and more. And it wasn't because his character was power hungry. If he was power hungry, he could make it so that if he shot a shadow bolt, you know, if you became super power hungry, you could shoot a shadow wave and you could use shadow powers to literally cripple people's fucking minds and kill them. But that's not what it was about. He wasn't power hungry in a player sense. You know, he wasn't a shadow lord and tried to extend shadow powers. He said, "No, I want to be a shadow lord, an aqua lord, a magma lord, a fucking mindbender, a necromancer, a graven one. I want to be every single class in the entire game on one character." That's basically what he was saying. And that shit is never going to happen. Like, nobody has ever been that good in the history of World of Warcraft. Even the makers, right? They each have something that they're good at, you know, like they're each like this giant god, and he's like thunder almost, or whatever. He has like thunderous powers, holy powers, ungodly powers. And then there's Sargeras, who was shadow and evil and stuff like that. Even these big ass fucking things who created everything, they didn't know everything, they didn't command everything. So it was ridiculous. It was a fight for power. So, you know, I have a feeling that Nathan will be back soon enough, and he'll be asking to rejoin the server, and we'll see what happens then. But until then, I have one last message for Nathan Explosion, if he ever watches this. So, you know, here's the message.
Suck my motherfucking dick. suck my dick, suck my motherfucking